Why did I start talking about chewing gum?
I don't actually remember. There was something happening in your brain that was chewing gum adjacent.
Okay. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Matt.
Welcome to ADHd20, a podcast where we find the intersection between ADHD
and TTRPGs.
This is one of my favorite times, but I'm a little nervous about today because you have a topic that you came up with 5 minutes before.
Yep.
And that's fine. See, the premise of this podcast, which we never want to lose, is that we wanted this thing to be an honest conversation. We wanted this to be a learning experience, and so on and so forth.
But first, I'm really proud of myself for one thing first.
Okay. What?
So we already have our mainstay of the D100 table. And last week, I introduced a new topic and pondered if we would remember to do it ever again. So here we are, second week in a row. I'm going to bring this topic up. Matt, what did you hyperfixate on this week? And if you need a minute to think about it, I can tell you mine. Yeah. But it does require that I eat a little bit of crow, confess out loud and to the world listening that I was wrong about something. Is that the sound crows make?
I don't know. Don't they?
I don't know. The year was 2020. A television show hit streaming opportunities worldwide, and the world fell in love. The world, except for one, Alison Lee Kendrick, who staunchly doubled down on how much she didn't like Ted Lasso. And with some gentle prodding of some friends, I was encouraged to give it another shot. That maybe my initial assessment in season 1 wasn't the right one. So okay. I have given Ted Lasso another shot, and I am deep in the throes of season 2. I think I've got 1 or 2 episodes left.
Okay.
You love it? So good. I understand why everybody loves Ted Lasso, and I'm so sorry for the last 3 years of being a contrarian and telling everybody no. And I feel like that has opened some other doors for me. And so I have been very purposefully pushing myself into, let me try something new. Something new. So I think that Ted Lasso is the micro hyperfixation. The macro hyperfixation is, I'm trying new man.
Yeah, you are.
I am. So throw your new things at me, guys.
I love it. I love this. Full glope.
Glope?
Can we change it to glope?
That sounds very sexy. Sure.
Great. Glope.
So that was mine. Vamping for time. Like, what did you hyperfixate on? That you were on vacation this week? You were not.
I was on vacation.
At home? You turned another year older? Wiser?
Yes.
Sexier?
Supposedly. Well, thank you. I feel a little sexier. Let's see. What did I hyper-focus on? I know what I hyper-focused on.
Okay.
Oh, buddy.
I can't wait.
Here we go. Right. So my friend Katie, the person that lives in Seattle that we went to visit, and we stayed at her beautiful home in West Seattle. And we got to spend 5 days with her where she wined us and dined us, took us to all these amazing places, like the best sushi I've ever eaten in my life. She really, she loves her city, and it really shows. She has an adorable nephew that at 8 or even younger, 5, is obsessed with vacuum cleaners, which automatically makes him
one of your favorite people.
Yeah, immediately. I support that on every level. And his aunt asked him, what vacuum cleaner should I buy for my new house? And he showed me the incredible review that he gave. I had this beautiful review of the Miele German-made vacuum cleaner, extremely expensive. She was able to find one for less.
Nice.
I went balls to the wall with this super powerful German vacuum cleaner, and I went nuts.
Of course
I was exhausted afterwards. The entire house, top to bottom, just every little crevice I could find, and it was fun. It was very fun.
If you added a hot dog pizza to that day, that would be like Matt's best day ever. Hot dog pizza, some D&D, and hardcore vacuuming. He's a simple man, my friend Matt.
I'm a simple and strange man, and many people, point this out. There's something about vacuum cleaners and the process of cleaning house that is so meditative and relaxing and enjoyable for me. So, anyway.
All right.
Sorry.
Enough vacuuming.
Okay. We've got lives to lead. We've got freaking
so
lives.
Today I am rolling with my, these are my Cora dice that fits.
Yes.
Gave me for Christmas, and I just love them. They are from Dispel Dice. They are sharp edge and sexy as hail. They've got little waves on them for my beautiful little sea elf. How about a 93?
Ooh, 93. Okay, here we go. Okay. Speaking of dice, Allison.
Ooh.
If you were to commission a set of personal dice, what would they look like?
Oh, there are just so many ways that could go. Oh, my brain is breaking. Okay. I can do this. My most favorite dice have some kind of inclusion in them. So I love the ones that have it's like almost like a cellophane or like mica chips and things like that. So if I were to commission, here's what I would do. First of all, they would be purple and gray because those are my signature colors. Second of all, I would want an inclusion of my favorite thing inside, which would be D&D dice. So I want a set of D&D dice with D&D dice inside.
Inception.
Yeah. Disception.
That's fun.
I'm proud of myself for coming up with that answer that quickly on the fly, because that is clearly a Fitz question I had never thought of before. So thank you, Fitz.
That's difficult, yeah. Okay, I'm rolling. This looks like 4.
Wow. What's something that you're kind of a snob about? Just one thing, Matt.
Come on, man. Talk about difficult questions.
I know. I'm so glad you got this question and not me.
Come on.
Everybody's favorite hipster.
What am I not a snob about?
That's true. Know thyself.
Just like nice things, I appreciate artistry in all forms, and I really can't stand mediocrity. Now look, I will get all up into a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. Okay? So I'm not saying I don't have my redneck elements, my common man elements. However, okay, I can do this. Kind of want to ask you what I'm the most snobby about.
I would say the first thing that came to mind was your coffee. You're the first person that taught me there is a precise temperature and grind to water ratio. And because of that, I always make coffee that way.
It's pretty tension rather than, right?
Okay, so
then... Because I'm pretentious about it. But.
All right, so language then, because you're now correcting the thing that I said. You're snobby about by saying, well, actually, that's pretentious, Alison. Semantics, Matthew.
No.
I mean, the jokes just write themselves on this show.
They're right. They're just right there. They're just ready to go. No, that's not right either.
Okay. The other thing would obviously be something technology adjacent. And
that's it. Windows and Android.
Yeah.
I'm extremely aggressively snobby about them.
Yeah.
I am aggressively snobby about those operating systems. I will go on diatribes about what I feel Windows, 11 now. And just, again, an incredible state of mediocrity. It's just living in an incredible state of mediocrity.
Oh my God.
And so I will be very snobby. I will dive into the ADHD tax for it. I will do anything I can to not use a Windows machine. So that's pure snobbery. Good job. Love it.
Know thyself or ask Alison.
This is the best podcast ever. Okay. How much more can I learn about myself today?
Let's go.
I'm ready. I'm ready now.
Funny you should bring it up, Matt. Let's get into the meat of this.
Well, let's get into the meat of this topic. Alison's got something to say to me. Should I try to wind it up a little bit? You came to me 5 minutes before we started this podcast and said, I think that we should talk about our Sunday D&D session in Barovia, because something happened during that game that caused great feelings, and I would like to discuss it with you live on a podcast. And the thing that happened was your character, named Chimerical, was killed in the game during a all-out, drag-out fight. But your party decided to take on an entire camp full of Vistani. They're sort of an evil-ish group, and you were trying to rescue your friend Willem from imprisonment, and it just went south.
Who dog?
Because it was a trap. They set the trap. You walk into the trap. You trigger it, and really, you kind of had to fight your way out. But this is an enormous camp full of humans that you kind of had to smash through. And the Vistani overwhelmed Chimerical and basically beat her to death. That was the setup. Now, what would you like to talk about today?
I feel like you feel like I've called you into the principal's office.
I do. Oh my gosh. Well, see, okay, Ms. Kendrick, here's the thing, though. I was just, like, doing my thing, and then Billy, like...
So let me add a little bit more. Everything that you just said is correct as far as like the in-game setup. The setup for why I thought this would maybe, and listeners of ADHd20, please feel free to let me know if this feeling is to the contrary. The reason I thought this might make for an interesting podcast episode is because this episode is falling directly after last episode, where we were prompted to talk about what makes a safe space for the neurospicy in game and in life. Yes. And one of the points that Matt and I made collectively in that episode was around how we deal with conflict, both in game and in life, and we kind of both like, hey, let's calm it down and then come back later. So I thought that this could be, there isn't any conflict between me and Matt as friends. Let me just go ahead and blanket statement that. But I do have questions and feelings about what went down on Sunday so Chimerical is the character I've been playing the longest. She's the second character that I ever rolled up. I started playing her in 2020. It was the first game that Matt started DMing for us, and I've been playing her since. So of course I'm emotionally wound up in this character. Of course I'm going to feel certain ways. I think something being emotional doesn't mean that it's bad. In fact, I love when things, I love the episodes where we get real with each other. So I've been trying to like open up more, and when you find the people that you can be vulnerable and squishy with. But in true ADHD super impulsive fashion, we had a topic for today. We had an outline. I had done the research for it, and I was like, hey, you know what? Let's just throw that out. So Matt has set the scene. Chimerical has died. And here's what happened next. So unfortunately for all of us, Chimerical's death happened fairly quickly into the session. Like, I think within the first hour or so of gameplay. So what was interesting about that is then I was just kind of left there to...
Yeah, I hate that.
To do nothing, to be dead, which is not a good feeling. And as I'm sitting there, being dead... not liking that, feeling angry about the fact that my character's died. And then all of the, like, what was happening to me is that all of the emotions of like, this isn't it for Chimerical for me. Like this is the campaign that a love story has happened. So I want to see what happens there. So there was this little part of me is like, I found love and now it's being taken from me because I'm dead, So I'm having this like very like personal reaction to that.
Yes.
Matt and I have been hard at work on all of these different like level ups for Chimerical and like what's going to happen next in her story. And I'm watching all of that just float
drip
away
down the drain
and
with every drop of blood.
So I was uncomfortable. Like, I was sad. I was upset. But you kept looking at me and you kept going, Alison gets so mad. Alison gets so mad. And so I think this is where, like, my personal RSD probably kicked in a little bit. Like, where, like, of course I'm sad.
Yeah.
Of course I'm not happy. I'm not mad at you, Matt. You were acting in character through the bad guys. So we were fighting bad guys. I wanted to kill them. They wanted to kill me. I lost.
Yeah.
They won. Like, all of those different things. But I definitely felt, am I doing this wrong? Am I reacting bad to this?
I'll speak to this first and say that I think that I was experiencing my own RSD.
I could feel that.
At that moment. Because, believe it or not, I may talk a lot about wanting the stakes to be super high. I may talk a lot about wishing that the game was just harder and it's so easy now in D&D 5e for people to become unconscious and then pop back up and then back up and bing, boing, boing, like a little jack in the box. I didn't know what your party was going to do. I didn't know what everyone was going to do.
Yeah.
I was not trying to kill people, for sure. And I did not like that the dice rolled your death.
Yes.
The dice told that story.
Yes.
Here's where I think being a dungeon master is so hard, right? Like, because I do have the power at that point to wave a magic wand and say, something distracts this group of people that are just full on gang warfare on this one person. You are a body, you've gone unconscious. What are they going to do? They're going to, like in a movie, in a horror movie, in an action movie, the bad guys aren't going to stop what they're doing. They're not gonna go away. So, but I do have the power to make them go away. I could make something up. But when I do, I know that feels cheap sometimes. And I know also that it could also feel cheap to you as players. Like, you don't necessarily want me to do that because you know what I'm doing. You know that I'm cheating. I'm basically cheating to keep you alive.
And I definitely did not want that. There was no part of me that wanted you to, like, hand wave and be like, this was a bad dream. Or I wanted none of that. Like, real stakes, Chimerical really died. No issue with any of that at all.
So this happens, and I do worry because I know that you have a very emotional reaction to this, as well you should, because everything that you said is true. So I immediately am worried about what you think of me because I'm always talking about killing you guys, but I don't really want you to die. I really don't want that. But it happened, and what I should have been saying instead of "you get so mad" is I should have said, "Are you mad? Are you mad?" Right? But instead, I was like, "She gets so mad." So that is not a defense. That is what went through my head.
Yeah. So then I felt called out, like, and then that helps nothing because then I get into the squirrely bad RSD place where, like, and I think that you and I were doing it to each other. Like, we were both having a reaction. I'm like, how do I show Matt that I'm not mad at him, but also have the appropriate emotions? And this is constructive feedback as far as, like, in session, what I'm curious about how to signal for the next part goes. Death can be a poetic thing, right? Yeah. But I wish in game there could have been, when Chimerical's rounds came up, storytelling there. Like, what was I experiencing? What memories, like that was one thing when we played and Evan and my characters died. It's just a recurring thing. What did we do in death? What were the first memories that came? But I guess my question to you is, in the heat of the moment, right? Yeah. What is the non-aggressive, I think you're doing this wrong, because that's not what it was about. But, like, what for you would be a good way to get your attention to be like, hey, look over here. Like, there's a storytelling element that some of us are missing here.
Well, yes, I love it. Let's go back to the episode that we recorded where we started talking about this and how we can do this. And my first reaction would be simply just ask me. So the the complicated thing about this session was, number one, again, I'm saying, I don't know, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Just want so badly to get to the point where what happened in game I could be better at. And I'm not saying that to knock myself. It's pure experience. It's pure lack of experience, because I was juggling 50 non-player character enemies. I was trying to clock where the players were going, because I'm also trying to make an interesting combat. And I felt like I was doing a better job of that, because I was really trying to make them use their action economy. I was trying to make them move more, which is something also that I've just really hard. It's really hard for me to do. And I simply let it slip. But here's what you can do in the future. Just say, hey, I'd like my turn. Yeah, I mean, just say, may I have my turn? Because after you died, I still had the entire combat to go. But I would have loved to take that time and energy to say, oh, yeah, Camerical, you're in a field. It's your family's farm. And you have this deep, deep feeling of comfort and peace and a far cry from the way that you just died. And you are heading to, we could go full cliche, you are heading to a light. I would have loved to stop and do that and give you the time that you deserve, because you are 100% correct. And I think there are bad ways of doing that. I think there are good ways of doing that as far as a player goes, but I know you would never do it in a bad way. So but in my brain, because I'm juggling so much, and again, not an excuse, simply inexperience, but that's why I was saying, I want to give my friend something to do, because she's just sitting around now. Her character is dead. I want Fitz's character to heal her. I want her to come back to life. I don't want this to be happening. And yet, I do want the stakes to be how I set them up, and I do want to have this experience. Luckily for me, it was an experience, because we're making an entire podcast about it, and I love that. But yeah, I think that's what I would say is, if anybody is in this situation, especially with someone who experiences RSD, and you know this, as a dungeon master, a game master, definitely try to remember that. Even if you have ADHD yourself, try to remember that and reach out to them, which I feel like normally I'm really good at. I do try sometimes to, if anybody's too quiet, I try to ask them, bring them out. But I was just juggling too much. And if you are someone that is playing and experiencing that, certainly you yourself would know that you could ask me anything. And so I think that putting it back on you only in that way, meaning not a passing the buck situation, but saying that is where the most beautiful examples of playing this game can be, where the players take up the story that I think I know the answer to, because it's in my brain. Well, but it's also in your brain, and it's in Evan's brain, and Fitz's brain, and Matt's brain, and that's the beauty of it.
I feel like
I just talked a lot. Sorry.
No, and I loved it. That was the spirit in which I wanted to have this conversation, was what was going on in both of our heads, because I think it was similar. We were both having these panic attacks about what is the other one thinking, and how can I stay present? That's where that's why I didn't speak up, because what I didn't want to happen is I didn't want to come. I think I needed to hear you give that permission, that I would never come from a place of trying to correct you, but remind you, because I think another topic that we've tucked away that we have to talk about one day is apparently our mislabeling of the notion of object permanence. So whatever it is, the out of sight, out of mind, I think, and this is something I struggle so hard with as a DM. It's one of the reasons I think I don't love DMing. So when I tell you that, trust, I see your struggle here, please know that it is true. When everybody's eyes are on you, when you are in charge, when you are running the thing, you feel like
you gave quotes just then. You gave air quotes. In charge. Right?
In charge. You feel like all eyes are on you. You feel like you've got to make all decisions in a split second. I feel that way. I don't feel that way about you, but I think we all do that, right? When you're performing, you're trying to like get it right. You're trying to say the right things and find the right facial expressions and the right tone and do the thing that's funny and entertaining. And you're like, your mind is just like whirring at a million miles an hour, which is why that's why I find DMing so stressful, even though y'all have been nothing but supportive of me. And I know that if every single one of you knew that was what was going on in my brain, you'd all say, take a breath, like take a beat. But so that I would say the same thing to you. So how do we, and I had this thought too, with Lindsay, with her profound deafness, she has cued speech. So what, in the realm of ADHD and neurospiciness, what are the ways that we can like cue each other in a non-shaming or invasive way?
That's beautiful. Let me maybe just a little more context about the Lindsay reference is that my wife is profoundly deaf and she reads lips incredibly well, and she has had a cochlear implant for 10 years, we discovered the other day. That is not hearing. For those of you who don't know, it is a hearing help, but she's not a hearing person. When she grew up, she learned a system called cued speech that allows you to phonetically spell with hand shapes sounds of all types. So what you're referencing is the times that I say something to Lindsay and she doesn't understand me. She can't read my lips. She can't hear me. I then have this cueing to fall back on to help her on another level to understand what I'm saying. So that's what you're referencing.
And even I remember it wasn't too long ago, she put up a Facebook status talking about, in her world, physically touching her is great. You have to, because you have no other way.
Right.
But like stranger danger, right? Like we don't put our hands on people we don't know. So it's very rude. Right. And she didn't realize that tapping somebody on the shoulder to people who hear is considered rude. And so she tapped somebody on the shoulder to get their attention, because that's how she expects we'll all get her attention. And they gave her this, how dare you?
Right.
And so I think about that in the lens of any disability, right? Like, what is our version of tapping on the shoulder that others may perceive as rude, that is anything but, to get our attention back into the space? And so those were the things that were going through my mind of like, how do I get Matt's attention out here that like, you don't have to rush this. We don't have to resolve this today. We only have 3 hours. Take a breath, because I could, like, you were doing so much, Matt, so much. Like, the thing I need everybody who listens to this to understand what it's like to play D&D with Matt as your DM is that everything he is doing for us. You were trying to give us the best audio experience with music, and you're trying to give us a visual experience with our virtual tabletop, and you're trying to give us, elevate our characters again to have those stakes in the meeting, and you're trying to give us real villains, and you're feeding us constantly, like all these different things. So of course, when you're doing all of that, you can't like stop and like, how does Alison feel right now?
Right.
And that's not the point, is to make you stop and think, how does Alison feel? But like in a situation like that, what is our cue for you to be like, over here?
Well, I think that I should do that. I actually can do that. And that is something that is really hard for me to learn, right? I think that's a tough one. I disagree. I think that I should be able to say, hey, how are you, Alison? How are you? How are you feeling? And again, experience. But until that time, until I get better at it, until I learn better, because we have to come up with something that's not just quote unquote inoffensive to me,
right,
but something that could be used for everybody.
Right.
And that's a little tougher, because you could just say, hey,
yeah,
this is my feeling.
Well, this is following the trail that we started blazing last week. Those conversations that you have as a table are so vital. It's why we recommended things like discussing the X card and having a session 0. And I think that this can play out into our real lives and real relationships as well, right? When you can, in those calm moments, sit people down and say, hey, it's what you were saying last week about if you know that you're the neurospicy one at the table, right? It's okay to say, hey, I'm neurospicy and my particular flavor is impulsivity. And it's okay. I know I do this, right? So it's okay if I am speaking too loud, interrupting too much, just to, say, hey, like let Evan talk or whatever that case is.
I think it would be incredibly cool if we could think of something.
Mm-hmm. Are we going to try to do it live here today?
I don't know. Okay, here's an example of something that probably have said this before. But when I was in a rock band and we were in a situation that we felt uncomfortable in, we found a way to work the word shamu into conversation with that person. Where if any of the band members felt awkward, and we cannot overuse it, you cannot use it lightly. It was an extreme, and it was serious. And we would find a way to talk about Florida and Shamu, and we would do it, so that another member or the manager could hear, and he knew I'm going to sweep in, and I'm going to. But it wasn't offensive to a fan. It wasn't, we weren't trying to hurt anyone's feelings. And we were saved. So I think it'd be super fun to come up with something like that.
Safe word, yeah.
Non-offensive, a saying that is fun and light, and it would just say, yep, okay, great. Taking a breath, taking back. Doesn't even have to be any kind of major thing, just like a check it and go. Because I agree with you, right? Because I agree with you, and it's something that I want to get better at. So, what is it? Are we doing it right this minute, or are we?
Drax,
what do you think?
Them.
Clowns.
No, we say that too often. It can't be that.
It can't be that.
All right. What's our? I don't know. We'll have to think of it. We might not be able to come up with this.
We have to think about it. But I think that this is a really cool thing, and I think that systems like this, when approached in a very open manner, that does help both parties.
Yep,
is fantastic. And I think if you add an element of fun to it, then it can remove the RSD element.
Yes,
for people who have or on the autism spectrum or ADHD, you could remove that if it's fun. You're like, yeah, they mean it in this fun way, much like Lindsay's cueing. Much like Shamu.
I think all these were supremely helpful. And I think that, at the end of the day, it's all about, I get to, in my head sometimes, to worry, and that's the RSD speaking, right? Too worried, am I not going at the pace that's enjoyable for everybody? Am I, not creating this, that? And it's just a reminder that, like, the best games are the ones that we're fully present in, just a call to presence. Like, don't worry about all of those different things. And that was my biggest curiosity of, like, how could I have helped us be more in the moment?
Yeah, I love that you were wondering about that. I love the question. I love bringing me to task, but not in a way that made me feel like you were bringing me to task. But you weren't. You were just saying your truth, speaking the truths. And I think it did, actually. It was a perfect timing. And now I understand why you wanted to kind of talk about it today, both because the game is fresh in our heads, but also the podcast was.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like a part 2 of...
I promise we didn't do this on purpose.
We didn't, though. We didn't. We really didn't.
I just realized it fit in so beautifully that we talked about how we'd like to Sunday was a very high emotional, high stakes day. And it wouldn't have served us if I had come in swinging at you, immediately after. Because then I was wrapped up in the emotion of my character dying. And let me just say, at no point, I knew you were pulling for Chimerical, okay? I knew you were. There was no like he's trying to kill me, but it was still like, oh
yeah.
That does not make the worry of like, what if I have to let her go before I'm ready subside any faster.
Yeah. No, I love it. I really love it. And it's another example in real time, basically, of how people can get so attached to these characters that you become, that you inhabit in your brain. And as I say, almost every podcast, love that. Love that.
I love that journey for us. I love the journey for all of us.
Yeah.
Can I be super snobby for a second? It's my turn to be snobby about something.
Call back.
If you are not playing with people, again, in life and in game, that you can have this level of a discussion with, get better friends.
Get better friends.
That's been the beauty of, you, Evan, Fitz, Matt Williams, like everybody in my life now is that I can like sit down and have these real conversations with and say, this is how I felt about that without, y'all don't trigger my RSD. I shared that. I used to live in this just constant state of nervous energy of what does the world think about me and why is it hate? And I just don't feel that way anymore because of y'all. So
do you know why you're enjoying Ted Lasso? It's because you're opening yourself up to trust. Because you have people now that you trust, and you trust that they won't hurt you. You are now surrounding yourself with better and better people that are worthy of your trust. And you're like, okay, well, damn it. If they, I'll give it another try. It's still you. It's still your feelings and your personality, but I love it.
All right, so we just connected the dots between our D100 roles, between the game that we love, between the neurodiversion that is our brain, neurodivergentness.
Yes.
We connected all the dots today.
Let's do it.
Well, Matt, thank you for coming on my podcast.
Thank you for coming on my podcast.
Thank you for standing in front of the firing squad. Thank you for coming to the principal's office.
She's a pretty cool principal.
Remember, you can't spell principal without pal.
Oh, good podcast.
Good podcasting.
Thank you for listening and being a part of our ADHd20 family. If you're looking for more, we'd love to see you in our public Discord server. Look for the link in our show notes and come join the chatter about all things TTRPG and ADHD, but also TV, music, really pretty much anything on our minds.
We also have a Patreon where you can get access to bonus content and outtakes, be the first to hear new episodes, join us for live streamed recording sessions, and even play Dungeons and Dragons with us and our friends.
The best way you can help us, though, is just to share this podcast with people you think will like it.
Thank you for being a pal to us as people, to ADHd20 the podcast, and to the greater Bivens Brothers Creative Commonwealth of Nerds.